Hello, and welcome to another episode of Aphantasia Experiments. I'm your host, Robin, and I'm really excited to have you here. I have lots to talk about today. Actually, probably just not that much. I think I just want to say lots because, I'm going to ramble and it's going to turn into lots. So it might be a lot, it might be a little. Who knows? But I've already rambled about how much I'm going to talk about, so it feels like this might be long. What I really want to talk to you today about is consciousness. It's been such a hyper-focus of mine for the last, 35 years? No, probably 5 years. I've always been really interested in paranormal stuff and psychic abilities and all that stuff. But the more you just dig into one piece of subject matter, you realize it's part of the bigger picture of everything. And I think finding out I had aphantasia was such a big kind of opener for me. And then also having a death dream, that was a big opener for me. And just these little openers that happen throughout your life that crack you open to realizing you're part of something bigger, and it's not what you think it is, we're not just material things walking around is what I'm saying. We're part of a bigger picture. So I have this theory about consciousness that just downloaded into my brain, and I'm going to try to explain it with Disney imagery. So, first of all, if you've listened to my podcast for a while, you might know that I've had a slight obsession with fractals and fractal meditation. And the benefit of fractal meditations, especially for people with aphantasia. If you don't know what a fractal meditation is, and you have Instagram, head on to Instagram and follow me on Instagram. It's Aphantasia Experiments. No underscore or anything. Oh no, maybe there is. Gosh, I don't remember. Oh my gosh, I'm terrible. Aphantasia underscore experiments, I think is what it is. You'll see the red logo. I have a couple of fractal meditations at the beginning, when I first started posting. I love fractal meditations. I do a bunch on Gaia. They have a whole series of fractal meditations, which are incredible. But the reason people like fractals, the reason we're attracted to fractals, is because fractals are repetitive patterns. They're mathematical repetitive patterns, and they're seen all over nature. Sorry, I'm distracted because my dog is pooping right now. This is ridiculous. Okay, one sec. I'm gonna actually pause my thing. Okay, sorry. I had to clean up some poop. Now I gotta remember exactly what I was saying. Fractals are basically repeating patterns, and you often see them in nature. So an example would be if you look at the leaf on a leaf on a tree, and then you look at the palm of your hand. That's the same pattern, and it's repeated in different ways too. If you zoom out of the world and look at rivers, you can see that kind of same pattern. Okay, and if you look at the bark on tree, it can mimic the skin on animals and people, and then rock shapes, and there's just different patterns that repeat in nature and people and animals all over. Okay, big, small, at a macro level and a micro level, right? Anytime anyone talks about quantum physics, I'm I get it, but I'm also I speak in more anecdotal terms, and I understand things from a nature perspective, I'd say. It's easier to explain something. Where am I going? Explain something using nature terminology or oops. Sorry, I just dropped some poop on the ground. Nothing to see here. It's in a bag, so don't be alarmed. Okay. Sorry, I'm so distracted. There's too many people around. Okay, so repeating patterns in nature. So I love these fractal meditations, and I never really understood why. And I use fractal meditations, just a hot tip if anyone is a healer in this realm and if you have aphantasia, say you are a Reiki healer or any sort of healer, and maybe you have trouble focusing or whatever, I find fractal meditations are the best thing for me. I put my intention, I place my intention, and then I focus on the fractals, and the healing. And the fractals, it keeps me there, it keeps me in that zone. Anyways, 1 second. There's too many people. I'll be back. Okay, sorry. So I'm attracted to these fractals, and other people are too, otherwise they wouldn't have a whole meditation thing on Gaia, right? I make my own fractals, I pair them to music that inspires me, because I have what's called frisson. I don't know if you've heard about frisson before. This is a terminology that I recently learned about. This has nothing to do with this podcast, but it's when you can feel music deeply. So for me, if I listen to a certain song, I'll feel goosebumps. It'll bring me to tears. At my kids' choir, school choir stuff, whenever they do group singing, especially when it's an emotional song. Oh my gosh, I don't understand anyone in there who's not crying. Or, when the concert band is playing, if you're not tapping your foot along, my body just does it. I feel I'm very, very impacted by music. But I'm not musical. Weird enough. Anyways, I can't. Although I shouldn't say that, because I feel I'm like Taylor Swift. I can write a mean song. I just don't know anything about melody. Oh my god, these squirrels. There's a brown and a black squirrel, and they're just looking at me, and then, oh my gosh, sorry, I love squirrels. Fractals, what was I saying? I don't remember, it doesn't matter. Okay, fractals, back to fractals. So, consciousness. What if, and this is just a theory, and I know I don't know everything, and this isn't going to answer all the questions, because if you're a skeptic, if you're someone who's goes on Wikipedia and shoots down anybody who has psi abilities or anyone who's not a materialist, then this is not going to answer all those questions. It's just a theory, a working theory that's one of those what if. And I also just want to throw this out there that I am in the I will never label what I am, atheist, spiritualist, although I probably have labeled it in the past. I'm saying this as I am now. I will never label myself, because the thing that I know for sure is I will never know for sure anything. And nobody will ever know for sure. So people who are so certain in their ways, I feel are the people who are the most lost, because knowing everything is kind of jarring, don't you think? If you know everything, then what's there left to learn? And I don't know, if this is all life is, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. So, wherever I was going with that, it doesn't matter. Back to the fractals. So, fractals are in nature, repetitive patterns. What if consciousness was just another form of fractals? And our consciousness might live in our brain, but it's not our brain. So when we die, that consciousness disperses these mini fractals, and the way, as I was going to say, Disney movie, I think about when a Disney character dies and those sparkles kind of go away, or in Frozen when Elsa dies, but then I think or Anna dies and then Elsa saves her, and then the sparkles go back into her. That would be an out of body experience, for example. Your part of your consciousness leaves, fractals of your consciousness leave, and then they re-enter to make your whole consciousness. But each fractal is actually whole. So in this theory, when you die, your consciousness disperses. Like, say a bunch of bees are held in a box, and then you open the box and they go out. Not the greatest example, because together the bees, I mean, they work as one system, I guess. They're in your brain, they're working as one system, and it makes you, right? But I think that each part of that, all the fractals that make your consciousness also make you. So, this is where it gets like super crazy when people are like, when you die, are you reincarnated right away? Like, what if you're reincarnated and then a psychic is still connecting to you while you're reincarnated? How does that make sense? It makes sense if we're fractals. And even when we're fractals now, like, so say there's 100 fractals in your body. There's way more than that, like consciousness. This is just a metaphor because it doesn't really work this way. Say there's all these fractals, okay? When you dream, I think that you're in a state where your fractals can leave and learn. Like that, those conscious fractals can leave and learn and come back. And then, so that's like why we have like out-of-body experiences when we're dreaming at night. Or like, have you ever just like walked somewhere and your body feels like you're just like, all of a sudden you feel like you're floating or something? Or like a near-death experience where you are watching your body. That's like fractals of you are leaving, but fractals of you are staying. Otherwise you'd be completely dead, right? So, this also explains how, okay, when you die, often, there's two parts to this. I hope I'm not going to ramble too much here. I wrote a blog about this on my website. If you just go and look up consciousness theory, you can read more about it. I feel like I explain it better there, but, okay, let's also think about, before I go in that direction, if you've ever seen the movie Big Hero 6, I don't think it's Disney. Maybe it is. I don't know. Warner Brothers, maybe? It doesn't matter. This kid makes this invention of these little bots. And the bot alone is like, not a big deal, but the bots together can create anything. And I feel like consciousness is like that, but the bots alone can also create anything. Like the bots alone each have their own experiences. So I think about when someone dies and in the days after, people get either like visitations or they feel cold. They have experiences where the lights flash or a car horn goes off. Well, what if these people are all having those same experiences at the same time, but they're in different locations? How does that make sense? It makes sense if our consciousness breaks off into fractals. And the fractals can influence us. And the conscious fractals can also like enter our own consciousness. This is where it gets really complicated. And again, I don't know everything, and I can't really prove this I have some ideas for experiments, so if you haven't already signed up for my newsletter, please do, because I'm working towards doing a lot of like free, cool experiments that are just gonna like test consciousness theories and other fun stuff. So, do that. But okay, so you die, and then all these people are having these different experiences. It would make sense that our consciousness is fractal, and it can be in different places at different times. And also, like, time is not linear, so, like, when you die, this is crazy, your fractals can, like, influence you in the past, present, future. And I honestly think this is where it gets a little trippy, that this is where thoughts come from. And not just like regular thoughts, but like those creative downloads, the downloads that you just have out of nowhere, that just like plopped into your head. I think it's other consciousnesses, and I think we're all part of a whole consciousness, but like other people's fractals are infiltrating you to influence you to do something, to have some creative, do some creative project or whatever. It's like, or like, you hear stories of like people, okay, for example, my daughter, I'll ask for signs all the time. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, I have a reel where you can do it. Like you can screen cap your sign. So if you want to ask for a sign, it's hard and you don't know how to do it. You can screen cap your sign for the week or whatever. And it'll give you one. So anyways, I ask for signs all the time. And my daughter brings them to me. Like she'll color a picture, she'll do whatever. And I always think like, what is that? What is that? And what if it is, if I'm asking for a sign from my grandmother, what if it's my grandmother's consciousness entering my daughter to influence her to do something? You know, like what made her decide to draw a squirrel, right? Like something is influencing her. Is it like fractals? And then that same thing could explain why, like how signs work. So if you see a robin in your window and you're like, my husband's name was Robin, I'm picking this from the signs book, like the robin isn't your husband, it's like your husband's fractals, his consciousness influencing, like helping that robin to be where you're at. Like it's like telling the robin, hey, you gotta be here so my wife sees me and knows that I'm thinking about her. And then maybe at the same time, that consciousness is also infiltrating the mind of the person to get them to look at the robin and realize that that's inside. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. I mean, it makes complete sense to me. Side note, if you haven't read the book, The Signs by Dr. Tara, oh my god, I always forget her last name. This is like one of the things I have is like apraxia, I think it's called. You just like completely forget words. Call her Dr. Tara. If you look up Dr. Tara, The Signs, she's incredible. I'm loving everything she's putting out there. She's great. So yeah, I feel like it explains like the science behind it all. I can't get into that. I think that like if you dig deep and you look at ants and like everything, if you just keep going inward, it's all just repetitive, repeating the same thing over and over again. And I think consciousness is just like small. It's not like you don't even see it, but it's there and it can be broken off, dispersed. And also like, this might not really have to do with this, but if you think about people with savant syndrome, like Dr. Kim Peek, who the movie Rain Man was about, could do all these things. Read a book at the same, like 2 pages of 2 books at the same time, like crazy things with his brain. And they looked at his brain after, and his brain like only half functioned or something. And if you've read the book, My Stroke of Insight, Dr. Jill Boite, I think, Boite, she talks about how she had her stroke and her like intuition and connection, the sense of connection and all that lit up, but then she had no language and no like executive function, or like she couldn't do stuff. Her body wasn't functioning, but her brain, like the other side of her brain that wasn't usually big and bright and like her dominant side was like super dominant. So what does that mean? I don't really know, but I do know that I think that we overemphasize the brain, and the brain is actually holding us back from experiencing life to its fullest. And when those fractals are released from the brain, there's more that our consciousness can do. And I think that also explains why, if you look at nonverbal autistic people, like people who don't have great body awareness often have heightened intuitive telepathic skills, right? If you listen to telepathy tapes, if the brain acts as like, the brain and body act as like a holder for our consciousness, maybe the people who have impaired body functions or brain functions have heightened experiences with their conscious fractals, and their fractals are able to experience life in a different way, because it's not held in the same way in their brain. Like the fractals are leaked a bit. Could explain why people have synesthesia too, because they're seeing fractals. They're seeing like the fractal, your conscious fractals are not, like they don't have that blindfold on because they're not fully in the brain. They've been released a bit. It also explains why some people who have had like traumatic brain injuries will sometimes randomly start seeing fractals. There's been a couple cases of this. It's like, what? What the hell does that even mean? Why? Yeah, I see fractals everywhere, but it's because they are in nature. I don't see fractals when I look into the sky, you know? Like, but these people like will see fractals on like a grid. So it makes me think like, that's it. We are all just fractals on a grid that can be dispersed and we can influence. And my last part to this theory, and I have no real way of proving this other than by storytelling. So as you know, if you've listened to this podcast, I worked for 6 months delivering remains. It was like the most, honestly, the best job I've ever had. Just because it opened me up so much and made me learn so much. But it also like opened me way more to signs and how they show up. They would just be showing up as I was meeting people. And it was so obvious to me. And anyways, it made me think a lot about how much our loved ones are trying to influence us after they're gone. We don't always see that because we're so deep in grief. And I think of, and this is another movie analogy, okay, if you think about Monsters, Inc. Okay, I feel like this metaphor makes more sense in my brain than it will as I speak it out. But in Monsters, Inc., the monsters go and scare children and try to take that scared energy. It like fuels them or whatever. I forget what it does. But towards the end of the movie, they realize that laughter actually does the same thing, if not more, right? I think the same is true with attracting in the consciousness of your loved ones when they're gone. So, because they're fractals, they can influence you. One little fractal can influence you, but the more intention and emotion you have behind like trying to connect, the more those fractals will come together and it'll be more obvious. So, how can I explain this? And again, this is a theory. There's holes in it. I know this. Again, I don't know everything. But say your loved one dies and it's been a couple months. You're just so devastated. You cry yourself to sleep one night thinking about your loved one, only to wake up to an apparition of your loved one standing in front of you. What if it's that emotion and intention, that intention to just feel, you might be praying, like, I just wish I could see you one last time. And then it's paired with this like emotion this raw emotion. Usually at first it's grief, right? Sadness. That can make, it's like a magnet to the consciousness, so the dispersed consciousness can come together and form like an apparition, or, enter your dream state and like be there in fullness. Otherwise, those fractals are more, they live inside your brain, so you don't see them. It's like they could influence a song on the radio, they could influence a thought in your head, they could influence a bird landing on your windowsill, but they wouldn't necessarily appear in front of you. Okay? I hope that makes a bit of sense. Again, it's a theory, but I keep like learning more about consciousness and getting these like random flashes of like movie scenes in my head, and I'm like, oh, I think that's what it is. And when I say flashes of movie scenes, as you know, I have aphantasia. So flashes of movie scenes to me, what does that look like? And I'm curious what it looks like to you too. For me, it's just like, I don't know, I remember a scene in a movie and there's no visual to it. It's just like, I don't know, the concept of the theme. And I guess I'm remembering the lesson from the theme, maybe, or the scene. I'm not sure. It's weird. My memory's so weird. Okay, so just to recap the fractal stuff, it's weird to think about. Here is another example of a fractal in nature, okay? Which is one of the most interesting fractals to me. The dandelion. Okay, the dandelion is such a unique plant, weed. My husband hates dandelions, and I'm always like, I love a good field of dandelions. Like, it brings me joy to see like an unweeded field. Not our lawn, but like a field in nature where you're like, see all the dandelions. It's so pretty to me. But dandelions, they come up and they're this one like unified shape, right? And then they evolve and they turn into these like the seeds. The seeds actually turn into the same shape as the flower. Like if you look at a flower, or the dandelion when it's yellow, it looks the little seeds are the same as those, right? So that's its own fractal, right? And then you blow it and those fractals fly off. That's like consciousness. It's flying off. I don't know how to explain them coming back, but I mean, if you watch, like the wind will carry it somehow. Maybe like the wind, for example, is our intention or emotion attracting it in. Maybe, I don't know. And I was thinking about dandelions the other day. I saw some Instagram post, or someone said something to me about dandelions that made me really think about dandelions. And I want you to think about this too. And I'm sorry, I have no idea where the initial thing came from, if someone shared this with me or if it was social media, but it made me think and think and think, and I have no idea which thoughts are mine and which are the original person's anymore. So I don't like stealing people's credit, but nature is his own credit, I guess. So dandelions everyone like hates dandelions. They want them off their line, you know. But just like dandelions and weeds, they can just find their way through, like through pavement. They make their way through the crack. They're very resilient, right? They just keep going. They keep going. And to survive in nature, all they have to do is just be. And they don't have a brain, but they know how to fly. Like, they know how to, this is nature, I guess, but create themselves in a way that makes them able to fly through nature and replant itself in other places. And I just think, like, how intelligent is that? I feel like that takes its own form of consciousness to be able to consciously know how to grow and consciously know, I don't know. I think about consciousness and I think that literally everything can have consciousness. And I think we put too much onus, is that even a word, on the brain and the human side of consciousness. And we think that we're so smart because we have iPhones and we have the internet and we can do all these things. But we're not so smart that we can like just stand there and then grow and then fly without even thinking and then replant and grow through concrete and like without even thinking, with just being. So where am I going with this? I think that we have things a little backwards and that we think that our brain is the most important thing. And I think that consciousness is so much more than just like the intellectual brain. And there's so much in the ether that we don't really know about, of just like being and knowing and understanding what it is to be. That's something that nature has that we don't, and like we lack. We just lack self-awareness. We lack that sense of just knowing who we are and being who we are, and just like letting nature tell us what to do and let us like fly and grow in pavement. You know what I mean? Anyways, I hope this consciousness theory makes a little bit of sense to you. Fractals, fractal nonsense. I think it really does though. And I think, I've said this before, I think we have grief wrong. I think that, well, this could be a whole other episode about like religion and witches and connecting to the other side, and how there's been this like evil undertone to it. And it's like, I feel like it's all been this ploy to make us realize or unrealize, like to make us mask our own potential and our own like ability to connect to the fractals of consciousness that are all around us, you know? And to connect to those, all it takes is emotion and intention in my mind. Like, so that's why when I'm doing like healing services on people, like my whole thing is connecting, is intention, and like my heart, like leading into my heart and that heart-centered emotion, and, you know, focusing on fractals, but like that intention and that heart component is yeah, that's how I do my healing stuff. Okay, I'm gonna end there. I feel like I was a bit rambly today, but I hope this theory makes a bit of sense to you. If you want to chat about it, follow me on Instagram, send me a message on there. I will try to get back to you, or send me an email at rofocreative@gmail.com. And also, like, while you're at it, just go to my website on aphantasiaexperiments.com. I have a test on there to help you figure out what your superpowers are. I have some ideas on where I want to change that and expand on it a bit, although the test is already really long. It helps you understand like where your heightened abilities are. I know a lot of people who are listening to this have aphantasia, and they're like, you know, you might feel just like super gypped and want to understand why you don't have those abilities. I don't know the answers. I'm trying to figure it out as I go, but I do know that I have heightened emotional intelligence, a heightened ability to make connections, to see things differently, to understand perspectives, good or bad. I know that I'm unique, and I've always had abilities that are not easy to explain. Anyway, so I felt very depressed when I first found out I had aphantasia. And if this is like the first podcast you're listening to, I doubt it will be, but if it is, go to my website, take the test. It's free. I just want you to understand that you are a powerful person, that we're all connected. You're not any better than I am. I'm not any better than you are. You have something special that I don't have, and I have something special that you don't have. We are all unique, and we're supposed to figure out what we are so we can be, and so we can fly, like so we can be the best of ourselves and really just celebrate ourselves and be who we're meant to be. I also think, oh my gosh, I could go on. Like with aphantasia, the more I think about, like when I was talking about Kim Peck before, the guy who had savant syndrome, and lots of people like this, or the minimal like bodily functioning people with autism often have like heightened telepathic abilities and all this stuff, right? Like what if that's aphantasia too? And aphantasia, it's actually, we've lost the ability to internally see because we don't actually need that ability anymore, because we've already like, I don't know, maybe we've used it in a past life, who knows, but we don't need it anymore because we need to see the world in a different way. And if we had too many distractions, we wouldn't be able to see the things that we were meant to see. Just a theory. I don't know. And also, like, if we're diminished in one way, I've said this so many times, there's always a way that you're heightened. There's always something that you're better at. It's just science. So find that out. Go to Aphantasia Experiments. It's on my front page. It's a quiz. At the bottom of the quiz, I do ask for your email address, but you can get it without giving it to me. I just want it because, again, as I was saying before, like I have all these ideas for consciousness experiments, group meditation, because I think that, again, my fractal theory explains why, especially the intention and the emotion part of it, it explains why group meditation is so powerful. If you've ever been in a group meditation, sometimes you'll see the same like vision as someone else. I mean, if not, if you have aphantasia, but you might have the same experience or have just like a similar sensation as someone else. And when you're doing it in a group, there's an energy to that. And I wonder if it's like a bunch of people coming together and that is like a magnet to the conscious fractals that can influence you. And then same with like prayer circles. A bunch of people are praying for something to happen. Is that work as a magnet to these fractals to help influence the situation? I don't know. And I can't explain it, but I do want to do some group meditation, experiments. And I'm working with a couple other podcasters there that also are interested in this. So if you have your own platform and you're like, this is something I've thought about, I want to build a community of not just me. I don't care about me as an individual. Like I care about us as a whole. And so this project, these ideas, I want to build something together with everyone who's interested, right? Because I think together, if we work together and bring the energy up of the world, it would be really impactful. So I have all these ideas for group meditation, all this stuff, but I can't do it on my own. And I think that it would be really valuable to work together. It's not about stealing each other's spiritual businesses. I think spiritual business as a whole is like a whole wackadoodle thing that has emerged in the last 5 to 10 years. I think with COVID, a lot of people were discovering themselves. They started their own like spiritual journey, but it's all become kind of individualized where we're all like doing our own spiritual thing. And I think that's where, if you've listened to me on this podcast, I'm always like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. So like I'm working for a not-for-profit now and I love that. And I'm very spiritual in my work and purpose-driven and all that stuff. And I feel good in that place. But I also feel like this side of me where we explore consciousness and we explore all these weird topics and meditation is also such a huge part of me. And after death and all that stuff is such a huge part of me. But I don't want to make it an individualized business. I don't think that really helps anyone. I want to build something bigger, put it all together. I don't want to have to charge people a bunch of money just to like live authentically like themselves. I want us all to work together to make the world a better place. obviously I want money somewhere in there. Figure out that could come from sponsorships from somewhere like Gaia. Hey Gaia, want to sponsor me? That'd be great. But like the individual people, I want to help us all grow, figure out who we are, be the best versions of ourselves, and figure it out by doing weird ass experiments. So if you're into that, and if you have any desire to connect, please go to my website and join my mailing list. I usually say email me, and email me too, but I often will I get overwhelmed because I work full time and I have 4 kids and it's crazy. But I do plan on like actually sending mass emails out more regularly when I have ideas for experiments and other fun things. So stay tuned there. Please join. And again, it's about us all coming together, working together. And if you feel that way too, like if you've been listening to all the different podcasts, the spiritual podcasts and everything, and it's all like, I don't know, we're all just so separate, and I don't want that. That's like the opposite of what I want. I don't want us to be competing for spiritual businesses. I mean, I guess it's the way it has to be. We live in a capitalistic society, but like, it just doesn't feel right to me. It feels like it's such a disconnect, and I want to bring our fractals together. You know what I mean? For the longest time, I've been getting teamwork makes the dream work as like an expression in my head. And I feel like it's, I know it's something that I'm not supposed to do anything solo, but I think that teamwork is like so much bigger than like 1 or 2 people or like 2 or 3 people. I think it's like teamwork is like us as a whole. We really need to band together to consciously fix and bring light to this darkening world that we live in. With that being said, I am going to sign off. Over and out. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please follow me on Instagram and TikTok, Aphantasia Experiments. I think there's an underscore again. Ooh. And I'm putting some fun stuff out there. I'm enjoying it, and stay tuned. There's a new podcast in the works. It's going to be amazing. I've said this before, but this one, it's legit, and it's happening, and it's going to be so great. I'm so excited. So stick with me. Stick with me and you'll never go hungry again. What movie is that from? No. Stick with me and we'll never go hungry again. What is that from? Oh my gosh, it's gonna drive me crazy. Is it Les Mis? Is it Beauty and the Beast? Okay. Stop talking, Robin. Let it go. Let it go. That's from Frozen. Let it go. Okay, I'm gonna let you go. Have a wonderful, amazing day. Check me out on Instagram, my website, and more. Let's do this together. Bye bye.